Whatever you want. I just want to make sure it gets recorded. But I'm going to share
Thank
this with a
you.
lot of people, I
Yes,
think.
thank you for reminding us. Would you like to go next, Edwina, for introductions?
Sure,
It's good
sure.
to see.
Thank you. My name is Edwina Cowell. I'm the director of Spiritual Playdate, which is an online program. It's social, emotional, and spiritual life skills for children. It's to be used by adults with kids, ages 5 to 11, and it's created for teachers and parents. It's an interfaith program, very all-inclusive, and our topics are a wide variety of social, emotional, and spiritual life skills. So, and I think I've met some of you at parliaments and other meetings, and Vesu, I know I've met you as well. I think maybe URI or something. So it's nice to see everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's very good to see you again.
Good to
Thank you.
see you. Thank you.
Reverend Steve, would you like to go next?
Well, the beauty of this is that I get the opportunity to, if you don't know somebody, introduce one to the other. We just met Edwina this morning, and her program is incredible, especially if you're looking to bring in younger people. Now, younger people have quote marks around them. Most of us are looking for younger people, 15 to 30-ish. She's bringing in people that are 5 to 8, 5 to 11, doing programs learning about compassion and just, it's a beautiful, beautiful program that if you have no knowledge of, you have to talk to this lady and learn more about spiritual playdate. Me, Abigail and I started an interfaith we're both New Thought ministers. I come from the Unity background. She's from religious science. And together we, in 2008, turned our New Thought church into Interfaith. And we've been doing interfaith ever since. We've been to the last 4 parliaments. Abigail has presented at all of them. This is a way of life for us. And like you were saying earlier, we do want to be able to pass this on to other people to take on the responsibility of making sure that the connections do not go away. And that's one of the reasons that I created Interfaith Awareness Week back in 2017 and got the mayors from the different cities in San Diego to approve that their city would respect and honor all people. So that's my background, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much, Reverend Steve. It's wonderful to be together, and we appreciate all of you for taking the time for being here. Today, we will share with you about the Arizona Faith Network. I'm Bhikkhu Vasubandhu. I'm a Buddhist monk from the Zen tradition. I'm 29 years old and I'm Mexican. I have migrated to the US 4 years ago because my husband is from the US. And I'm working as the interfaith manager for AFN, together with David Toppin and more friends. So we will start with part of the history of AFN. And also we will go each of us to share briefly how we did start our interfaith journey. When was the first time that you participate in any interfaith dialogue or event? So the Arizona Faith Network started with the Arizona Ecumenical Council that was perceived for 23 years by the Arizona Council of Churches. So AFN STAR has a organization that connect people from Christianity, from different denominations. And that was established in 1948. But in 2015, the board voted to rename the organization and to working for interfaith connections. And now, before was the Arizona Council of Churches, and now became the Arizona Faith Network. It's important to share with you that we have different interfaith organizations in Arizona. Other good friend organization is the Arizona Interfaith Movement, which is different of the Arizona Faith Network. So now we will start to share how long have you been part of the interfaith movement? And if you would like to share the first time that you participate in a interfaith dialogue. And we can start with Ruth, and then you can call somebody Ruth. You are muted.
You're muted, Ruth.
Those are two distinct questions I've been thinking about. When did I get involved? I would say that in 1991, I had been making a film about the holiday of Passover because I had noticed that it was a magnet, that a lot of people who were not Jewish always wanted to be invited. And I was trying to understand why that was happening. First, I was kind of proprietary, saying, well, it's my holiday. Why is everybody wanting to come to my holiday? And what I realized that the theme of liberation from oppression is a universal theme. It's not about belief in God, although that's part of the story of Passover, but the whole theme of liberation from oppression, sexual, emotional, physical, political, whatever it is so touches the core of every person. And so that anybody who's sitting at the table that night and going through the story of the Exodus can relate to it. And so I was filming it. I ended up having 100 hours of footage from, you would be amazed to know where they were celebrating at drug rehabilitation centers. They were celebrating Passover, the Catholic Workers Union, Seder for the Deaf, feminist Seder for battered wives. It was just, and as I encountered each one of these, an idea began forming that why not use this holiday then to bring people together? And so I had this crazy idea that I was going to have a big interfaith Seder in 1991. I'm laughing because my husband at the time said to me, why are you doing this? Is crazy, because 85 people were coming and I had to cater it. And he said, this is crazy. And I said, I can't tell you why, but I have to do this. And so he said, I just don't get it. And I said, you don't have to understand it. Just don't help me, but don't hurt me, because I've got to do this. And at that event, when I filmed it, I thought, well, this is very special. But I met through the filming a Black woman minister who was celebrating Passover with 600 African Americans. I'll try to make this short. It's a long story, but I met the pastor and we ended up creating one of the first interfaith holy peace pilgrimages to the Middle East. And it was led by a Black pastor and his wife. There were only 13 of us. Eight were African Americans and 5 were Jews. And we retraced the steps of Exodus, and we ended up from Egypt. We went through the Sinai Desert into Jerusalem and had our Universal Freedom Seder there. And so that was the moment that I had started organizing really official events. But I didn't become part of the movement because I didn't really know there was a movement at that time. I didn't know about it. When I was asked to show the film God and Allah Need to Talk, a film I made in 2003 at the Parliament of the World's Religions. And when those of us from Southern California came home, we felt the need to start a group, an official group, which was the Southern California Parliament of the World's Religions. And I became co-chair of that for 10 years. So that was my official foray into the interfaith movement. And I'm sorry if that took a long time, but.
Thank you, Ruth. That's beautiful. Would you like to call somebody else?
Yes, I'd like to call Amanda.
Well, thank you. I have to really quickly say that I'm new to JCRC in Phoenix. I worked for them previously in 2017, but since my time here starting last November, we also hosted an interfaith Seder with the Latino Jewish community, about 85 people, and it was amazing. It's an annual thing that had been done but stopped at COVID, and so it was beautiful to be able to reignite it. And Ruth is absolutely right. It speaks to so many universally relatable themes. But I think the question was, when did I first start in interfaith work? And I'd have to say, when I got married, because my husband is the Garcia part of my name, and he doesn't identify as Jewish. He was raised Catholic. And we've had to navigate an interfaith relationship, which has turned out beautifully, although it hasn't been easy always. But we, a couple of years ago, brought our children to Israel to celebrate our daughter's bat mitzvah, and just had our son's bar mitzvah in Phoenix. And in 2015, we participated in a trip called Honeymoon Israel. Some of you may have heard of Birthright, which is an organization that sends young adult Jews to Israel to connect with their background, whether they're actively Jewish or just connected. Birthright is a separate organization. Honeymoon Israel was started in 2015, and we were selected to go on the first trips to really connect. It's a big interfaith experience trip to Israel, and it was very intentional, very beautiful. It inspired me to want to do more of this work, just to find out about how we're more connected than not. And so I've worked with that organization ever since, as well as with the JCRC of Greater Phoenix. And I find it a joy to represent the Jewish community, although I'd really like to bring them along and do more of this type of outreach work. I don't think we serve ourselves or anyone by staying in our groups and not communicating, and letting the political landscape define us. So I think it's an interesting time to come back to working as a Jewish community professional, but I'm honored to do it.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Edwina, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I would say my first experience was about 20 years ago. I was also attending Unity at the time, and we had a lot of different folks from different faiths coming in. And there were choirs, there were rabbis and imams and all sorts of interfaith things, just different functionings happening at the church. And I attended a few outside of the church, and I became interested. And then when I started Spiritual Playdate, it was actually myself and my 7-year-old son. It was 3 7-year-old boys and 3 moms. We were having a play date, a weekly play date with the boys. And we were all a little grouchy about the fact that we didn't really know what was happening at Sunday school or at faith education for whatever reason. And so we decided to sit down with the boys every week, take that play date time and sit down with them and talk about spirituality and spiritual teachers. And, you know, we opened the books and we started having maps, and it's very difficult to talk about religion unless you talk about it contextually and open all the maps. And I remember it was really interesting. I remember the first time I looked at a map that had the religions of the world, and I looked at South America, and now this isn't entirely true, but pretty much all of South America was Christian. Now, I had never thought about it. I suppose if somebody would have asked me, I would say, well, it's probably predominantly Christian. But it struck me, and it struck me that I didn't realize that, and also struck me how many other faiths were scattered throughout how many countries and different areas. And so that was sort of the beginning of my journey. And we also, like I said, it became part of who Spiritual Playdate is. It was just almost from day one, it was really an exercise in religious literacy and interfaith understanding. It's just that we were doing it with the kids. So it's that, you know, it's been 24 years, I would say. And I'm very, very happy to be on this journey.
Thank you so much, Edwina, for sharing. That's beautiful. Reverend Abigail, would you like to go next?
Yes, I would love to. Well, I believe, you know, Steve and I had a New Thought Church for children for a number of years, and we moved to San Diego. And one day, and this was probably in 2005, 06, we were reading a local paper, and they had a little article, not even article, just community news. And it says, the Baha'is are inviting anyone to come and meet them at Coco's restaurant to help plan a World Religion Day. And I read that, and I said to Steve, I said, what's Baha'i? I had no idea. I said, let's go and find out. So, Ruth, I totally understand your feeling, because when you have the urge to do something, you can't stop yourself. You just have to do it. It's like, we gotta go. So we did, and oh my gosh, we met the most delightful people, and we're all still friends. And the lady who was in charge, Deidre Merrill, said, well, we're going to have this World Religion Day. We're going to have about 6 to 7 speakers talking about their faith traditions. And she said, would you like to speak about yours? I said, sure. So we spoke, and we did this for 2 years, and we helped publicize it. In the second year, we had like 3 times as many people. And so after that, all the speakers got together and said, you know what? We're feeling a need in our community because people are hungering to know about each other. So we met at our center a number of times, and we decided to, let's just be this group. And we went through a couple of names. We have eventually landed on Powie Interfaith Team. We like the idea of team, not council, because it means we're all working together. There's no hierarchy here. And so our very first summer project or event was called Interfaith Summer Nights. Big success. We had a speaker every week from a different faith tradition. And I believe it was one of our last speakers or last evenings. We were standing around because we always asked people to bring their cultural food, and Deidre was standing there. This other man by the name of Rick was there, and I was standing there. And all of a sudden, this man, I think it was a man, could have been a woman, but I think it was a man. Everything got fuzzy. He came up and said, you have to continue this. This is so important. And he handed Rick, who was our so-called treasurer at the time. We had no money. I don't know why. But anyway, he handed him $100 check. We all just, our eyes went to the check and looked at it and said, oh my gosh. And when our eyes came up, the man disappeared. We had no idea. We didn't see him walking around. We couldn't even remember what he looked like. So we thought that was definitely a divine sign, and that we need to continue this. And Rick said, I guess I better open a bank account. So that was the beginning of our interfaith experience, and everything is history from then on. We incorporated as a nonprofit in 2008. So we've been together since basically 2006, and it was a fun beginning.
Thank you so much.
That was an angel. That was an angel, Abigail.
Absolutely an angel. It's got to be a divine presence, because none of us remember what he.
And you weren't sure of this of the gender either, which is also telltale.
Well, we thought it was a man, but when you don't remember what the person looks like, who knows, right? So
maybe
I'm sure it was a divine presence.
Both or neither.
Yeah, it was a divine presence. So we were very grateful for that.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We wonder, Donald, if you would like to go next to learn from your experience. When was the first time that you participate in a interfaith dialogue?
At the time of the Y2K, beginning of the century, I went to my first event at Huntington Beach Pier, the Interfaith event, and then went to the Interfaith Council meeting the next month. And when I walked into the room in City Hall, I looked around at these people from all these diverse faith groups as they started interacting with each other and relating. And it just really struck me. This is the way the world should be. And how can I help this happen? And so I felt like a conversion experience. And since then, I've been excited about it. In 2007, I got 19 Interfaith Council Interfaith leaders together, and we formed the Orange County Interfaith Network, which I'm still involved in today, and involved in several local interfaith councils in Orange County, California.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Donna. David Toppin, would you like to go next?
I can keep it short because I covered some of it already, and that is that my primary connection with interfaith started with AFN, and I have the honor of having been on staff the longest of anyone else currently. So I have a little institutional history behind me, but I used to work for the United Methodist headquarters in Phoenix as their IT person until I accidentally outsourced myself. But no worries. Within months, I was invited to come and interview for a position with Arizona Faith Network, and it was actually hosted at that time in the same building. So I walked right back to work where I had walked out with my cardboard box a couple of months before that, and have enjoyed my work with AFN ever since then. I look forward to learning more and more about diverse faith traditions, and AFN definitely provides a conduit for doing that.
Thank you so much, David. Yes, we really appreciate to having you at AFN as AFN staff. And for me personally, it's very important to learn from intergenerational collaboration. That's part of the spirit that we try to work on at AFN for intergenerational collaboration and learning. So Reverend Steve, would you like to go next to learn more about the details of your experience interfaith?
I think the only thing I can tag on to what Abigail said is that we decided to start a Poway Interfaith team thinking that we were the only interfaith group in the world. There was nothing else happening anywhere. We knew nothing. And somebody told us about the North American Interfaith Network, that they were going to have a conference in San Francisco, and maybe we should go. And sure, why not? We drove up from San Diego to San Francisco, and we found 100 different interfaith groups in San Francisco. What the heck? Where are all these people from? We don't understand. And they're all doing the work that we decided we wanted to do. And then the ultimate happened. Somebody said, next year, the Parliament of World Religions will be in Australia. You should go. What's the Parliament? We had no idea. We show up in Melbourne, Australia the next year, and there are 8,000 people doing interfaith. There are 8,000 people saying, I respect you, I honor you, I want you to know who we are, I want to learn more about you. And from that moment on, we were changed. There was no going back to just our own faith. We had to do interfaith.
We really appreciate that. The recognizing the interconnection and the beauty of each group that do interfaith in many parts of the world is so important. Thank you so much for sharing, Reverend Steve.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I have started working with Interfaith when I was 18, and I will share with you a exclusive picture of when I started working for Interfaith. I will share with you my screen. I think you can see my screen now. No? So let me check if you can see. If no, I will share just in a moment. But I think I can share now my screen. Yes. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That was few of the first interfaith. This was me. I was very, very young. I started collaborating with Interfaith through the Council of Religions for Peace. When I was 18, I'm 29. So when I just moved to the US, my first job was with AFN. So I'm very, very grateful for AFN, Arizona Faith Network, because it was the first time I was able to work in the US for something that I have do for many years in Mexico and Central America. And now be with you is a blessing. I remember when I started to collaborate with English speakers, I was not very good is speaking English, and I'm still learning. But that's something that I really appreciate, or our interconnections and our interfaith movement, that we are vibrant and also very diverse. We are doing right now this in English, but there is many things happening in many other languages, in many other areas. As you mentioned, Reverend Steve, during the Parliament of the World's Religions, we are able to see how vibrant is the movement and how it's impacting many parts of the world. So just to recap, so AFN has the Arizona Council of Churches, ACC, in 1948, and then became Arizona Faith Network in 2015. So now we would like to learn from you, what topics do you work specifically in your area for interfaith? We will give you just 1 minute to think about it. So for AFN, something that we are working and we are focused on is specifically on social justice. And social justice is very specific for Arizona, since Arizona have a specific climate and specific conditions. Part of the social justice work that we do is on heat relief. So we open cooling centers or resilience centers through the valley, the Maricopa County, to provide food, water, and air condition for people who don't have a home because of extreme heat. Other part of the social justice that we do is also on racial justice initiatives, to connecting and to learning the importance of racial justice. The other thing is on voting rights. For example, during this election this year, we are collaborating to prepare people from diverse religions to work as peacekeepers during the elections at the polls. So they are able to educate their faith communities on voting rights. So now we will go, each of us, briefly, what topics are important for you and the organization you are working with. So we will start with Amanda, and then you can call somebody, Amanda.
Thank you, Vasu. JCRC is very in line with the work of the Arizona Faith Network and the priorities. I had written down social justice. That was the first thing that you said. That is definitely a priority for us. And I would say I wish I could give specific examples for work we are doing right now, but we've been in a kind of crisis mode since October 7th, and more response, unfortunately, than proactive. So hopefully we will be able to return to being actively engaged with our partners in the social justice space. But in line with that, I see voting rights as well as a priority. And we are also promoting opportunities for our community to work as poll workers or poll monitors and that kind of thing. But at this time, in line with rising anti-Semitism post-October 7th, security is a big part of our work, not just for our community. We also do monitoring of the dark web, frankly, for things that could affect other vulnerable communities. And so we believe that is imperative that we're good friends and partners to help the community, not just, keep our all communities safe is our priority. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Amanda. Ruth, would you like to go next?
Yes. So aside from my personal passion to include the arts in everything we do, when I was co-chair for Southern California Parliament of the World's Religions, I'm going to mention one of the events that we had and how it morphed and changed into something that engaged both interfaith and the climate. So one year we had an event called Seeds of Peace, in which it was all about meditation. And we invited 16 different communities who didn't know one another and who never did anything together to come on the same day. And we did it at the church in Pasadena, All Saints Church. And each of them taught their practices. And it was very successful because a lot of people came to learn meditation, also to hear who else was doing what. And so then we had this epiphany that we need to do something about the social action groups as well. And so the following year, also at the church, we had Seeds of Peace at bridging spirituality and social action. And I got Marianne Williamson to come and do the keynote, in which she said that those two elements were extremely important, and that if people were only operating in one and not relating to the other, they were missing the boat. That people that are only meditating and not being concerned at all about what was happening around them in their community were missing a chance to bring what they had learned in meditation to the larger community, and vice versa, that some of the social activists were so passionate but so in your face, they actually alienated people away because they didn't have any interior peace or quiet to help them know how they could speak to people in an effective way to convey their passion without pushing them away, right? With overkill, right? And then a few years later, Loyola Universities helped us put together, they sponsored an event. It was Seeds of Peace and the importance of water. And so we invited indigenous grandmothers, the head of Tree people from Interfaith Power and Light, and we invited both activists and meditators, but it was around the idea of water. And that had been suggested by Chief Daniel Ramos, who was on our board of directors, because we asked our board of directors, what are we missing? And he said, we need to talk about water, the essence of life. And so I'm just explaining how that all of that morphed from meditation to bridging social action, and then choosing a particular subject that was of interest to everybody. And all of those events were very successful, very well attended. And I think, going forward, it's good to have musical performances and dance and all that, but if they are arrayed around particular theme, I think it can be even more meaningful than just sharing our practices, sharing our music, sharing our prayers. I think that if there's a theme that relates to the state of the world right now, that becomes very powerful. And so I'm going to pick Abigail. Was that okay? I could pick?
There we go. Okay. Well, first of all, the Power Interfaith team's mission statement says this. It says, we consort with followers of all religions in the spirit of friendliness and fellowship. We increase community awareness and understanding of different faith traditions. And we stand with all faiths for human rights and justice. So I wanted to, hold on, let me get you back. I wanted to share that mission statement with you because we kind of view ourselves as a teaching organization, and yet we know each of our people have individual passions and purposes. And so we do, if there's a social justice issue, we have a lot of people who will go there for that. We will have different people go to different things. So we support one another and we stand with one another. We like to meet in each other's sanctuaries for our monthly meetings because we know when we're in a space that's different than ours, it may be a little uncomfortable if you've never been there before, but that's the way that we step over that little border of fear and you become more comfortable in a different space. So we encourage people to come to the meetings when we meet. We'll have our Jewish representatives feel comfortable in the mosque. We have our Islamic representatives feel comfortable in the synagogue. And right now, this is really important that we do come together in each other's sanctuaries so that we can feel the closeness and friendship that we have. So we support and encourage each other's passion, basically. And so our events really incorporate what can we help the community learn about our different faith traditions so that idea of fear goes down. We want people to feel that, like, consort in the spirit of friendliness. And when we do that, the fear of each other, quote unquote, goes down. And I think that really promotes love and respect and honoring each other. Even the newsletters, I try to incorporate everything that I can from all of our people that are members of Point and non-members. If they have something that's going on that they want us to know about, I will be happy to publicize it. I want to get the word out that, there's so many things going on. Let's learn about each other. Let's find out about the different activities and events. One of our favorite ones, and I'm hoping we can bring this back, is with our youth. We asked a panel of youth a couple of years ago to say, why do you love your faith so much? And so the youth were sharing with this audience of adults and youth why they love their faith so much. And it was such a teaching moment, not just for the adults, but I could see the panel of youth looking at each other, looking at the speaker, saying they love their faith that much. And this is why. And they were sharing. And then afterwards, I was watching the youth talking to one another. And it just, I think it brings the fear down and the love and friendship goes up. And I think that is our purpose in our Power Interfaith team.
Thank you so much.
Shall I ask somebody, or are you going to ask somebody?
Yes, please feel free to ask somebody.
Okay. All right, David.
Actually, I just exempted myself in the chat. So,
Steve, I figured you were going to go last because you could add on to whatever I said. So
That's right.
all right. So Donald, did you speak yet?
No, I did not. I guess this is a good time. Some of the things we're involved in Interfaith in Orange County. Well, first of all, in Huntington Beach area, we have efforts, well, actually around Orange County, to feed the homeless and shelter the homeless, currently unhoused people. And For example, we our church provides about 40,000 pounds of non-perishable food in a monthly to about a dozen different pantries, food pantries, mostly with churches. And then our Interfaith Council coordinates where that food goes. And we couldn't, our church couldn't do it. We wouldn't know where to distribute the food, and they didn't have the food to distribute that much, pretty much. So we can do more together to serve our our fellow beings in our communities. Our Huntington Beach Interfaith Council has a National Day of Prayer event, as do I think 4 other councils in Orange County, and Thanksgiving events. About 4 of those. Interfaith Thanksgiving, and we have a Blessing of the Waves, which brings together community and everybody around the waves and around the beach community here in Surf City, USA. And we're trying to overcome divisiveness between various groups, especially the Muslims and Jews right now. And so we're having a series of courageous conversations. The board of the Orange County Interfaith Network just had 7 hours of training by a professional group about Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and this sort of thing. And we're not really that totally big in social justice right now, except for the those in need. A lot of other things too.
Thank you, Donna. Is there something else you would like to add, Reverend Steve?
I don't want mine to sound like an advertisement. However, I'm doing a presentation on Friday that deals with the soul. And basically, I'm talking about how the soul of the person is the God that they worship. And within that, they evolve from lifetime to lifetime, taking with them both the good and the bad, and hopefully learning from it to choose a next lifetime where, because of external elements, things are different. So that people came into this world in the 1800s and there was no electricity. Very different than their soul coming into this lifetime in the mid-1900s. Same thing with computers, with televisions, with cars, with anything that our soul chooses what it can best learn from. And that includes choosing other people that, each one of us has met people that said, we've been together before. I know you from a past life. Holy cow. Amanda, when you met your husband, what was it that drew you to say, I want to marry this person and I want to create children? I don't know. Why do we go into the work we go into? One of the video clips that I'm going to show on Friday is of a 4-year-old playing the piano like Mozart. Now, you can't tell me that child learned it from age 1 to 4. He didn't go to lessons. He came in with that. And so much of the work that I am doing interfaith-wise is to integrate the fact that our souls are non-faith, non-denominational, non-male, non-female, non-anything, and that we create our life based on what we think. I want to have a wonderful life. And I'm going in to be with people that will allow me to do the kind of thing that I will started to do now and I want to do later on. So that's me.
Thank you, Reverend Steve. And thank you, each of you, for sharing your experiences on what is your focus on your interfaith journey and your interfaith work. So at AFN, at Arizona Faith Network, we are working organized by working groups. We have a working group for the environment, other for hunger and housing, other for interfaith dialogue. So this is how we organize the network here in Arizona through working groups. The other things that we are doing specifically is to expand the diversity of religions, the participation of all diverse religions into the social justice work. The environment is a very important key of the work that we are doing here because we are working on land protection. Recently, we have been working with indigenous communities and other interfaith organizations to protect the Grand Canyon, to protect also the Great Bend of the Gila, and many other places here in Arizona who are also connected with the spirituality of indigenous communities. So the next question is about best practices or good practices that has been giving you the success in your interfaith local work. Here in Arizona, we are focusing specifically for the state of Arizona. Most of the work that we do is in the Maricopa County, but we are also working in Tucson, in Flagstaff, and many other cities of Arizona. So we are very local focused organization because the things that we are working on are very specific and localized for the state of Arizona. That means with policy, with indigenous communities, land protection. So what kind of practices are helping you, for example, Reverend Abigail, in your local community for success on interfaith work? Is there something you will recommend to all of us that we are here? For example, including more youth participation for the sustainability of the movement, or how to mobilize the community. Also, the access to grant funding and anything else that you think will be good to share for sharing together good practices. So we can start with you, Reverend Abigail, and then we can ask somebody else.
Well, say as far as the Poly Interfaith team goes, I think that we as an organization have worked together. I think it's important as for any organizations to work, play, and eat together. We need to find time to work together in meetings, committees, play together, come together for a potluck, go to the lake, to our Lake Poway, and have a fun time outside, work, play, and eat, and then share food, share our cultural food. So we do that really well. And like every event we have, we always make sure there's some kind of a fun part as well as a serious part as well as a food part. That brings people in, and I think I love to see when we're finished and people are getting their food, they're sitting at a table, and I'm seeing the imam with the rabbi, with the Baha'i leader, they're all sitting down, talking, laughing, sharing, that brings down barriers of fear. I think collaboration, we're really good at collaborating. We not only collaborate to create events for our own team, but we collaborate with the sheriff's department, collaborate with the Anti-Defamation League. We collaborate with Chamber of Commerce. We like to collaborate with people so that people know who we are and we can support and help them, and they can help and support us. So I think work, play, and eat together and collaborate. And I feel that our teams are really good at, you know, there's an event, that event gets done really well. So because we work together, we like each other. We like each other. I mean, we have worked together for so long that we have formed friendships, and with friendships, and not that it hasn't been rocky. Of course, there's been some clashes here and there, but we work through it. We work through it, and you're going to get the bumpy roads, and you just keep going and do the best you can. And so that's what we've done. I don't know what else to say.
But I will add on one sentence to that.
Okay.
We have in the past introduced people, and this was in the early days. This is my Buddhist friend Vasu. Now this is my friend Vasu.
We've stopped saying the person's faith. I think at the beginning it was kind of a novelty that we could actually be friends with people of other faiths and cultures and ethnicities. And then as that just didn't seem to matter anymore. It was just, these are my friends. These are my friends. And because we have put the time in to work and play and eat together.
Eat.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very important part, right? To sharing.
Yeah, I would say form a friendship. Just form friendships. Really important to do that. And in this world that everyone is divisive, we have in our team, we have all political people, and yet we still come together to do what is necessary to do and to get along and to laugh and share and have a good time.
Wonderful. That's something that I really appreciate. And I have been learning, and I'm still learning, how to celebrate our differences, our diversity of identities, visions, perspectives. That's something that I'm still learning, and I appreciate. My husband and me are very different. He's Muslim, I'm Buddhist, and we also have sometimes different identities, ideas, visions, perspectives. So thank you, Reverend Steve and Reverend Abigail. So Donna, would you like to go next? The question is about good practices that are helping you in your interfaith work for the success.
You're muted.
When we first formed when the Interfaith Council in Orange in Huntington Beach was first formed, we had a couple of people in there who said, well, before we start doing things, this is a little bit weird, but let's fall in love with each other. Let's have a relationship with each other. And those people were the core group. In this, we worked together out of love and friendship for each other, and for those we served. So that's important. Having working relationships. Like I'm involved in almost like 4 or 5 committees for the Huntington Beach Interfaith Council, and in each one you strengthen those working relationships. And our lay church is a church of volunteers, and we do it through committees and develop strong working and personal relationships that way. I'm not sure exactly what we're trying to get at with this question, so let me defer until someone else does something, and if I have more ideas, I'll chime in.
Thank you, Donald, for sharing. I wonder, David, if there is something else you would like to add, anything that you may have as a personal experience.
Well, I think that, interacting with my other staff members like you has been a very effective method of opening my eyes to other thoughts about faith traditions. Another thing is in reaching out to some of our subscribers and people in our database, I'm able to connect. So one-on-one, like other people have mentioned, It's all about one-on-one connections. You could have a lot of knowledge and read up about the other faith traditions, but until you actually have actual human contact with the people whose experience and maybe beliefs and traditions might be different than your own, you're missing out. So human one-on-one contact is my
Right.
Thank you, David. That's wonderful.
I know during COVID, the interfaith activity went down in Orange County because we couldn't do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. So during this connection, we have learned about how AFN start and also how this also is part of our personal history and how we start our interfaith journey. Also, what is the focus of AFN and what is the focus of your interfaith work? Now we have been sharing about best practices. And I will say that part of also that I appreciate working at AFN, I can see a lot of commitment of each of the members. So I was thinking about that. Sometimes in many experiences I have in Mexico, in Central America, and other parts of the world, for some people, interfaith could be a experience that lasts for a few years or months, but for some people, lasts for all their lives. So sometimes it's different. The personal experience, the personal connection with the interfaith movement and how this impact personal lives of people. I can see that interfaith is impacting greatly and beautiful to personal lives in Arizona. As I mentioned, with the land protection and collaborating with indigenous communities, with the heat relief network that we work with the universities and the government, and now we integrate the perspectives and the resources and the moral authority of religious communities. So it's a pleasure to be here together. In addition to my work for AFN, I'm also serving you. Now have been elected as the chair for the North American Interfaith Network and also at the Global Council of the United Religions Initiative, URI, also on Religions for Peace and many other places. Thanks of the opportunity that give me the older generation and older generations to be in that position to serve. So now the question that we will go to closing our conversation today is about the next generation. And I'm not thinking only about the younger generation, but also there is older generation who have their first interfaith experience. So I'm talking about people who have their first interfaith experiences or who are new on collaborating with people from diverse religions. So how do you think we can help connecting more new people and for them to have a good experience, to have retention on their participation? So we can share briefly. We can start with Donald and then Reverend Abigail. Okay.
First two things that come to mind are we formed a Interfaith Youth Alliance in the Orange County area that's really taken off and developed relationships with many dozens of their people their age, and we're having some tech transfer from the older generations to them. And anyway, that's the best practice if you want to get on Interfaith Youth Alliance in Orange County on the website and learn about that. They have like an amazing newsletter that I just reading yesterday that illustrates that. And then there's another youth project called Just Serve. We had a very conscientiously prepared presentation yesterday from 4 to, I think it's 4 to 5:30 or so, by two young people who were presidents of Just Serve high school clubs. And they gave a wonderful case for the value of service in the world, especially for young people, and collaboration. And in our this Just Serve concept can be applied any place. We have formed in the last 2 or 3 years 57 high school Just Serve clubs that brings together people from all different faith groups. It is sponsored, not sponsored, justserve.org is sponsored by our church, but it's not a church thing, but it's an interfaith thing. So you might want to look up justserve.org and then Interfaith Youth Alliance in Orange County for a couple of good practices.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience with Orange County. It's great. And thank you, David, for sharing in the chat about the Orange County Interfaith Network. Thank you. Reverend Abigail, would you like to go next?
Well, this is the one area that we're trying to work on. We have not really, I'm going to go on and look at that Interfaith Youth Council in Orange County, because I want to see how you began it, because we have in the past tried a couple of different ideas and we're still not there yet. We have, because I'm thinking youth like teenage youth and maybe 20s, but we've got a lot of 30, 40, 50-year-olds, but we don't have the youth. And that is one area that we're weak on, to be honest with you. We'd like to have, invite more youth to come and talk with us. But I think that after hearing the youth who did yesterday's program, which was excellent, how important it is if we get the youth involved in a project, I think we will get more participation. I'm thinking panel talk about their faith, but what if we did something different? Let's get the youth involved in a project. I think that would be a good way, at least for us, because we just don't have a youth group for Point. So anyway, that's all I can share right now.
Thank you so much for sharing. Anything
I
you
mean,
would like?
for the last almost 20 years, I've been involved as a leader in local community service. And this last April, we had over 1,000 volunteers at 40 different service projects in our local area. And we had the Just Serve clubs and other youth groups from different various churches and faith groups get together, working side by side in a variety of service projects. There was something for everybody. And that seemed to work very well. So I can tell you about how we do it so successfully. I used to run it, then I would be better idea to have it done through the Interfaith Council, which broadens things and teach various groups on how to run community service projects. So anyway, ask about that if you want.
Yeah, I'll connect with you, Don, and we'll chat further.
Thank you, Donna. Something else you would like to add, Reverend Steve?
I think it's difficult to put the cart before the horse when people are still upset that the other person is not exactly like them. And in that non-acceptance, they, depending on how they were raised, may not want to do a social project with the community or whatever. And I think that's why most of my work has been in education and the final project, the final presentation this week is going to be on how to teach interfaith. And that comes from a book that Abigail and I wrote that compares 12 different faiths and what they believe about 40 different topics. The book's been used throughout the United States, and the interfaith groups that use it say people are, you're not offended by anything because all the beliefs that your faith has about love, about violence, about male, female, about whatever, 40 different topics is right there. And the majority of the material was written by rabbis and priests and temple leaders and whatever of the different faiths. So I guess what I'm saying is we first have to somehow get people willing to learn about the other person before they will interact with them.
Thank you for sharing. Yes. And I think that's something that we are doing during this Interfaith Awareness Week, learning a lot from different groups and many experiences. Thank you so much for sharing. Some people who introduced me with interfaith collaboration was a bishop from Central America, from the Episcopal Church, a imam from the Muslim community in Central America. And then they passed away a few years ago. In honor to them, I always have them in my heart all the time that I'm working on interfaith, because of them, I was able to learn how to collaborate with other religions. So in this connection that we are having right now, I want to honor all generations, because everything that we are doing right now is also thank you for many other generations that have do a lot to prepare this path and this journey for interfaith. Other things that I'm working as a volunteer and serving you is in a council that is called the Faith for Earth Youth Council, and is part of the United Nations Environment Program. I was also elected as a co-chair for this council. Is the collaboration of young people from different religions and institutions for the environment. And something that is helping me is to see the technologies that we can use to connecting more on interfaith, like we are doing right now through these video connections and online connections. So I have a lot of hope, and that's something that I want to bring in our hearts to close our conversation today, on the hope that we have for the future of our interfaith journey, that we are doing this together. And also, if you are coming to Arizona anytime, please, we will be happy to having you in AFN. Our office is close to downtown, is in downtown. It's at the First Church UCC in downtown Phoenix. And also, if you have any friends who are from Arizona or are moving to Arizona, we would love to connect with them. So thank you so much, David, Donald, Reverend Abigail, Reverend Steve, and Ruth, and many other friends who connect earlier, for being here in this connection to learn more about Arizona Faith Network. It's a pleasure and it's an honor for me to serve you. And I hope I can do a good serve for you. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to share?
Thank you, Vasu, very much. It was wonderful. It was lovely sharing.
Thank you so much.
Please give our love to Johnny.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, I will. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the other connections.
Hey,
What was the name of that youth group again?
Yes, the youth group is part of the United Nations Environment Program, and it's called Faith for Earth.
Faith to Earth.
Youth
Okay.
Camp.
Youth.
That's right.
That's okay. Okay.
So thank you so
That's
much.
perfect.
We will see you later, and be well. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.